welcome everybody. I'm Lisa from ProWritingAid. We love doing sessions like this with authors who have made it through the publishing industry so that we can find out and learn as much as we can from them. And my guest today is Katie Kirby, who I think is going to appear on screen any second now. Katie, are you there? Dun, dun, dun.
Hello.
Hi, Katie.
Hello.
Thanks for being here today. We've got a few people still coming in, but I just wanted to introduce Katie. So Katie came into my life initially on my Facebook page, where I came across one of her little stick illustrations, and I thought it was really funny and poignant, and I shared it. And then one of the moms from my kids' class said, "Do you know that that's one of the moms from our kids' class?" And I hadn't realized that I had already been sharing Katie's artwork and her illustrations without realizing that I'd also been walking past her on the sidewalk on the way to and from school each day. And that was back then. You were a blogger, and now you're a fully published author. It's been a big few years.
It has, yeah. It feels like a long time ago, and also not a very long time ago. It's one of those weird things, but yeah, it's been quite a journey, really.
Yeah. Well, so I always like to go back to the beginning. So did you always want to write?
Yeah, I always wanted to write since I was little. Well, I always did write, and I used to write lots of like short stories and things like that. And I've always been a diary keeper. Well, on and off. I say always. There's sort of periods of my life where I didn't really bother very much, but especially in my teenage years, when I was like 14, 15, 16, I was quite an avid diary keeper. So they're quite fun to look back.
I have so many, and I can't read them. They still feel too embarrassing.
It's quite hard, actually. I have read them back because it's partly in research as well, because I've written a children's book which is in diary form more recently. So it was quite interesting looking back at all my thoughts and feelings when I was a teenager myself. And it's quite hard because you want to go back and shake yourself. I think you kind of almost don't recognize yourself, and you want to go, why did you do that? Why did you let people talk to you like that? Or why, especially with boys and things like that. And it's just like you want to go, no, don't put up with that kind of behavior and stuff.
Yeah.
So, bit cringeworthy, but
and I think I was so sincere in them. Like, I didn't edit myself at all. I just poured all of my deepest feelings into it, and now I just think, oh, so it's too much. It feels too close to the bone. I haven't tried for a while. Maybe I need to go back in and read them again. Maybe I've got a book in there too, like you did.
Yeah, it's funny that you remember that you wouldn't have necessarily thought that remember. You read it back and you're like, oh, your mind plays a different picture in your head. So it's quite interesting to see all those little details that you record that you just would never have remembered if you hadn't have written them down. So that's what's nice about it. It's remembering all those little things, or just the little conversations, the things you said and things people said back to you.
Yeah. But so then you didn't start out with a plan to become a writer. You got a proper job first, right?
I got a proper job first. I went to university, and then I worked in digital media agencies for quite a number of years until I had until I became pregnant with my first son. And after that was all up in London. So then we wanted to move down by the sea. I'm from down here by the sea anyway, so we wanted to settle down here. And the working up in London and the commuting and the long hours that come with advertising agencies just didn't really suit having kids at all. So I kind of started doing a few different things, and but found motherhood quite a big shock to the system at the time. Yeah, I was one of the first of my friends to have children, and I think from my experience, I saw the nice side of having babies. And my sister had a 2-year-old when I was pregnant, and we didn't live that close. So whenever I saw her, I was just like cuddles, playing. It was just all so lovely. And
then you get to give them back. There you go.
Exactly. I just didn't realise how hard it was actually going to be. So it was a bit of a shock to the system. And so I went through a bit of a tough time, mental health wise and stuff, when my oldest was quite small. And then when I came to have my second baby, I didn't want to go through that again, and I kind of started writing a blog as a way to kind of not vent, but just sort of explain how I was feeling. And I just couldn't find many blogs out there at the time that really talked about the realities of motherhood and what it's really like on a day-to-day basis, and not just the bad stuff but the good stuff, but just laughing and sharing those highs and lows. So I decided to start a blog, basically about the highs and lows, and didn't really expect much of it, just did it as a way for me to kind of put my thoughts and feelings out there, and maybe connect with some other mums who were in a similar position and going through sort of similar experiences to me. And it just grew and grew, really.
And did it just resonate with people? Were you just hitting? Because I think I think is really interesting about your writing is that it's really funny and really self-deprecating, and also really poignant, and like still touches on the joy of it while also seeing the difficult stuff, the pain of it.
Yeah, I think that's important to get the balance, isn't it? I mean, I sometimes get some people like criticize me, like saying, oh, some people can't have kids, or, you should appreciate them when you're young. You get sometimes quite a lot of criticism from that point of view. But I've never regretted anything about having my children. I absolutely love them, but I feel like being able to vent and share the hard days as well as the good days is really important. If you feel like you can never complain, then it becomes something that you're locking up inside, and it becomes overwhelming. And so I think it's really important that we all are able to share the highs and lows of motherhood.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of parenting is just really tedious and really boring, and you can like really love it and be really caught up in it, and also find it really tedious at the same time. Like they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, exactly. I think especially when you've got I started and had a young baby and a toddler, and those are those days can be really tough because it's just relentless, like trying to get them to sleep, trying to get them to eat, and just not having any, you can't have a proper conversation with them yet. It's just all shouting and, demands, or you play Fireman Sam with me on the floor for 2 hours, or I'm going to go. And it's tough. And you're waiting for my husband to come back, like, please come back. But obviously that changes as they grow older as well. But especially in the younger years, it can be pretty tough.
So for anybody that's here that is a writer and wants to put their ideas out there, how did you decide that a blog was the best way for you to do it? Did you create a website, or did you start off on social media?
It was on WordPress, so that the blogging platform. And to be honest, I don't know what the most popular platforms are now. Whether people still do WordPress. I mean, it seems to me that people are blogging less and less now because social media and the way we're using social media has changed. So I haven't written an actual blog post for a long time, partly because as well I started drawing the cartoons, and then also it just seemed like it just changed into people writing longer form social media posts as a way to share their feelings. I think people just haven't got time, so clicking through to a blog, or writing a little blog, for me, and then also for the people reading, for them to kind of have to click through and read, it just seemed like it was too many steps, and so people just wanted to kind of consume media as it was on the platform itself. So I started off doing WordPress blog, and I suppose that the reason for that is just that it's a way to connect with people, really. You can obviously write it yourself, write things down. I had always, quite like the idea of writing for, magazines and newspapers and things too, but it's very hard to get into. So it's just an easy way to write, get your thoughts out there, and connect with people, and get some feedback too, like connect with all the other parenting bloggers and stuff. And you write because I think, I write because I enjoy it, but I also write because I want people to read what I've got to say.
Yeah,
and
of course.
It feels a bit pointless writing if no one's ever going to read it. So it was just a way to kind of put myself out there a bit. But I never I never told anybody. It was always a secret at the beginning. I didn't want
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't want anyone I knew to read it. I was quite embarrassed, to be honest with you. So it was a secret.
Just because you weren't sure if what you were writing was good? Is that why?
Probably, yeah. So I think it is. It's quite mortifying to say, "Oh, I've written this," and for it's your friends and family reading it, and what are they going to think of you? So I didn't tell anybody. It was all a secret until I wrote, I think, my first post that went viral. And then I was like, oh, well, some people had sort of seen it as well. But also then I think I felt a bit more of a gust of confidence and just saying,
yeah. What was your first post that went viral?
No, I can't actually remember which one it was now. But one of the, well, I think it was one called The 7 Stages of Sleep Deprivation. So it's all about sleep deprivation for parents, and
everyone feels the pain of sleep deprivation with little ones.
Yeah. Also something about fussy eating as well. There's all those kind of really key topics, but there was those are the ones that kind of did quite well, and so that exposed me somewhat.
Okay, so you set up a blog for yourself, and then how did you find your readers? How did people come across you?
I think it started off being, so you join like a blogging network. So I joined all the kind of parenting blogging groups and platforms. So I think to start with, it really was just parenting bloggers. But then I suppose other parents follow other parent blogs. And so you started getting a few more readers who are not bloggers, who are reading because they want to read. And I think it just came from like that, really. And then you just get people, as I say, you write something that resonates, they share it on their Facebook, take the link and share it themselves. So I didn't have any social media to begin with. I was just, just writing the blogs. And so tweeting them as well. And then people retweet and stuff. So you just really gradually building up an audience. But I often get a lot of people saying, oh, I've started a blog, but I haven't got many readers, or I haven't got, started social media, I haven't got many followers. And how did you get yours? And I have to say, well, it's not easy. It's not like a quick win. People will say they've started it and they've done like a couple of months worth of posts and they haven't got that many people yet. And I'm like, well, yeah, I did a good couple of years before I had many people actually start to follow. So it was a slow burning thing. And I think you've got to do it I didn't do it with an aim to become big or with any agenda for it to become a job, or because I actually wanted to write a book. Obviously that would have been lovely, but it was I wanted to connect and write, because I enjoyed it, and so it was always about just enjoying it, really. And I think it's got to be the way it comes. It's got to be a natural, organic thing, because you do it with an agenda to try and boost yourself or sell stuff. It's just not going to be authentic, and people want to kind of resonate with you and to feel that you're being genuine. And so
I think that's true. And I think your if anyone hasn't seen Katie's illustrations, come on, zoom. They're like really simple, there we go, really simple stick drawings like this with little word clouds that depict, really basic events that everybody has felt in their lives. But I think the fact that you had these little illustrations probably just made all of your content that much more shareable, which you maybe didn't think of in the beginning, that it had this visual element that was very shareable.
No, well, I didn't do them at the beginning, actually. It was that, again, was just like a natural thing that kind of happened. I used to just write, and I used to put a lot of pictures, especially when I don't have many followers. So it's just pictures of me and the kids and stuff that I used to use to kind of, for the visuals and stuff. And the Stickman cartoons just came about because one day I didn't really have any pictures, and I just thought I'm just going to draw a little sketch, and it quickly became quite apparent that people really liked the stickers, and it just came from that. It was just like a whim decision to just do it once, and then I just realised that people liked it, so it just became my thing, really. Strange.
I love it. I know, it's so cool when things like that happen, just because an artistic reason or just a convenience reason or whatever, and then you think, think I've got something here actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then your blog is like growing and puttering along, and this is probably about when I met you, so like 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's about right. And then you got a phone call. Tell me about the phone call in the YMCA. I love that story.
Yes, and I think you'll know the place as well, Lisa. There's it's not there anymore because it's been turned into housing, but there's a YMCA like toddler gym where we used to go when the kids were very little, and it's a bit grimy and a bit dirty and a bit basic. Yeah. It's like someone that did like, I can't remember what day, like a Wednesday morning play group or something. And I just remember being there with my with both of them, I think, and then just getting, it was an email I got actually, and it was just from my editor at ended up being my editor at Hodder, and just said, oh, I've been reading your blog. I think it's really good. I think, you know, you've really got something there, and have you ever thought about writing a book? And so I was like, maybe, you know, trying to play it a bit cool, but yeah, basically went from that. I went to go and meet her.
You didn't have to go. You weren't out pitching this and trying to find editors and trying to write the book.
No, I wasn't at all. But it had started to occur to me, because I think by the point that I got the email, I'd started to build up quite a good number of followers, and so there was part of me that's thinking, oh, this is, you know, maybe there's something here, and I started thinking it would be great to write a book, but I had never got around, you know, I was never at the point yet. I think I was kind of hoping that perhaps it would be an organic thing that, you know, build up enough of a following that probably somebody might hopefully think
someone will notice you and think, oh,
I was kind of perhaps hoping that might happen. / not having pulled my finger out yet, so it was just really good timing. Yeah.
Okay, so then the next stage, then you've got this offer. What was that experience like, going like A, suddenly writing for someone else, and B, writing in this different format where you have, you know, I know it's all essays, or do you call it essays, but it still has a narrative structure, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't too difficult, and I was able to use. I mean, they wanted it mostly new content. You can't just literally like use all of my
copy paste.
That was really easy to do, but they did also want some of the old, you know, the popular posts in there too, and I wanted to put some things in that I was particularly proud of. So it was like using. So I think it ended up being about like maybe a third or maybe a bit less of old material, and then 2/3 or 75% of new material. So it was just weaving into a story really, and I just went from the very beginning of being pregnant right up to school age, and it's 30 chapters, and I just covered all those kind of key points, and but I really enjoyed it, and I'm really proud of the book, and I hope that when my kids are older they'll like to read it. But it's got all of their birth stories are in it, both of their, you know, quite detailed, funny their birth stories, and quite a lot about me and their dad, like just like our, you know, when we got married and things like that. So it's got quite a lot of things, and, you know, quite a lot of memories from when they're young. I mean, I've never read it back since I wrote it, so
you should read it. It's really very good. I think you'd enjoy it.
I don't know what's in it now, so people go, I really like that bit. I really like that. Because I think you kind of almost, I think with writing the books, I almost go through a bit of a protective thing, so that when I've finished them, I almost park them away in my brain, so that I can't worry too much about what I've actually said, because I almost like forget completely what's in the book. It's probably a bit of protection mechanism, something. But so one day it'll be quite interesting to read it back and be like, oh my God, what was I on about?
Or maybe you'll be surprised at how funny and clever it is, and like it. I sometimes find that if I find things that I've written, you know, years ago, I'm like, this isn't as bad as I thought it might have been.
Yeah, that is true, and I do that a bit when I'm actually writing. Like in the minutes, often if I put things away, I get really sick of it, and I come back to it, and I realise it's not quite as bad as I thought. So it's good.
And maybe the bones are there.
Yeah,
maybe you haven't. The execution hasn't been there, but the bones are there, and then you can turn it into something.
Yeah.
So then Herofragen it was suddenly here in the UK, whenever you went to the supermarket, it was, right next to where you pay for your food. And it really felt like it was a big thing. And was that the year that you won, what was it? One of the big blogger awards?
God, I can't remember. Yeah, I did win a couple of awards, but I can't if they were around the same time, but maybe before, actually, maybe just before. I won
maybe
Blog of the Year, and I won a Best Writer award at Mumsnet as well. But yeah, I think they might have been just before, and then the book came out, and I had no expectations at all about how it would do. I didn't even know, you just don't even look into it. I have no idea what a good number to sell is. I don't know how many Sunday charts. I was just delighted to have had the chance to write a book and to have the book in my hand and go, I've written a book. And so it was lovely, actually, the first one. And I had a great book party as well, which wasn't too stressful, because it just felt like really, I just didn't really worry about it, because I just didn't know what any of it meant. I was just glad to be there, glad to be part of it. And I think it was just really fun. And then it did quite well. And then every book since, it's been awful, because you just have the expectations and the pressure.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't feel as fun anymore. It feels like more like, oh God, And
yeah. There's something amazing about finding success and knowing that you've done it. But then if you did it all for the joy of it, then it must feel really different with the second book, having just a deadline and having to. Yeah. So tell us about your second book, because it's quite different.
Yeah, the second book was quite different. That's it's sort of like a toddler diary, so just laughing. I think I was in the throes of toddlerdom at the time as well, so that was very much my life. So that was almost my funniest one to write, actually. I really enjoyed writing that one. It's very me, I think.
It's my favorite one of my kids, but I have to read it. If you guys haven't read Katie's books, they're very sweary, and so I read them. This one is all about, it's written sort of like a diary for a 2-year-old, and how not even embarrassing his parents are, but they're just not pulling their weight, and how disappointed he is that they haven't provided all the right snacks and the blue bowl instead of the pink bowl. And my kids love it, but I have to live edit it as I'm reading it, because it's so sweary all the way through. But I
think it's always the readest one, actually.
Is it? Yeah,
a lot of kids like it, I think, because it's really silly, and it's obviously about a kid, so it's almost like a adult kid book. So. Yeah,
it's very funny. So I guess I was going to say, what made you decide to change format? But I guess if you've told the story of those kids from birth to
I think it's
school age.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like I'd had everything to say, and also as the kids got older, and I used to talk a lot more about them personally, I just felt like it was becoming a bit more an invasion of their privacy. And obviously we can all laugh about toddlers and the funny stories to do that, because they're all very similar. They're all doing the same silly things. But as kids get old, as soon as they get into school age, you can't really laugh at them in the same way, because all their struggles are becoming more personal, and it just didn't feel like the right thing to do. And a lot of people say, I can't wait till you write a book about teenagers. But again, I'm like, can you imagine? I'd be disowned. They'd never speak to me again.
Oh man, yeah, all those like first crushes and embarrassing moments, and you can't do that with teenagers. I've got a question here in the question box. So someone says, tell us a bit more about the process. Did the editor's book publisher offer you something, or did they refer you to an agent? Yeah. So did you have an agent, or how did that process work?
I didn't have an agent. So it's a bit an interesting story, actually, but I didn't have an agent, and I wasn't sure whether to get one, because I felt like I wanted to work with the publisher that had approached me, and I really liked her. And so I didn't have an agent. Agents take 15% of your everything, which is quite a chunk, if you like.
Yeah.
So it felt a bit like I felt like perhaps I should just not have an agent for now and just go along with that. In retrospect, it became more problematic, because actually the contract wasn't as favourable as I had thought. not knowing everything. And I would fully recommend getting an agent, not just so you know that you're getting the best deal that you can get, but also because it becomes too awkward when you're having to talk about money and the ins and outs of contracts with someone who's your editor, if you like. It just makes it
yeah.
And so I think you need somebody who's there to just literally do all that for you. And I think that paying that extra, paying that 15% it's going to save you money anyway, because they're going to do a better job negotiating than you are. I was just glad to have a book. I was glad that anyone wanted to give me a book deal, so I didn't worry too much about it. It was only later on when I saw, it sold quite a lot of copies, and I was like, oh, but you realise that I shot myself in the foot a bit. I should have, and the agent will say, look, I can take this to Penguin and get, they'll take it to everyone else and up your money. So I would definitely recommend, not being polite, getting an agent
and just assuming that you don't know what you're doing if you're a first-time author. And that's nothing against any first-time authors that are out there, but if someone came to me with a book deal, I would have no idea what I should be asking for and what would be possible.
It's all quite complicated as well. There's lots of clauses, and the way that they're sold to different like Amazon versus Waterstones, and the discounts that you get, and your royalties depend on how much discounts the different outlets are getting. So Amazon often buy it a lot cheaper than everywhere else, so my royalties are less on that I get. If they sell it at the X% discount, you get X% knocked off your royalty level. So it's all quite complicated actually. And you would, if you do get your books published, you'll get these big long statements where it's all like this and this and it's quite it's a tricky one to follow. So you definitely you need someone in your corner to negotiate those terms and to just look through everything and know that you're getting what you should be getting. And just to answer your questions is definitely the right way to go. I have an agent. In fact, I have two agents, because I have one for my adult books, and I have one I went for a specialist kids agent for my now kids books. So
that's interesting. That's good. I mean, that's their world. They are the pros, right? You might as well spend the time and find the people. So then the other part of this question is, did those publishers tell you what content they wanted? And like with those 30 chapters that you mentioned, what was that experience like? Did you come up with that list of 30 topics and that outline together, or did you come up with it and send it to them for their feedback, or how did that process work?
No, I mostly did it myself, to be honest with you. They really gave me quite a free rein. And when I first started, when they first came to me, the book, I wasn't sure if they wanted more of a book of cartoons, because obviously I do a lot of cartoons. So one of my ideas was just to do like a kind of coffee table book with all cartoons from beginning to the end, of the kind of same period. So they encouraged me to write more, to do more, put more writing in, which I'm really glad that I did, because I think it's added a lot more to the book and it's got a lot more of what I wanted to say into it. But apart from that, they were very much, do what you like. So I submitted it in chunks, because it's like 30 chapters, and sort of help with it, because I did it on quite a tight time frame as well, because I had the email asking if I wanted to write a book in October, and then it was published exactly a year later. So by the time the contract was thing, I only had about 4 months to write and illustrate it from start to finish before it, and that's all, editing and printing, getting out of the shops and stuff. So it was a really tight turnaround time. So can't remember what my point was, but they did give me quite a lot of freedom. To do what I wanted, really. But I submitted it in chunks. So I did sort of like 10 chapters. I'd send it across, and they'd read it and let me know if there was any, mostly to sort of say, oh no, this is right. And I did 10 chapters. I sent them across, and she was like, I absolutely love it, just do more. So,
amazing. That's good.
So but it was quite good, because then it wasn't just like at the end, it was everything to edit. It was just I did it in sort of helped them as well, because I stay on top of the editing, so it wasn't like a big job at the end.
So tell me about your editing experience. People always Do you like the editing experience or do you not? I feel like
Love it.
in the ProWritingAid
Yeah.
community, we're about half and half. People that love the creative side, hate the edit. People that hate the creative.
I love the edit because I
love the edit.
Yeah, I love the edit. I think it's because I find that really overwhelming when you're. I mean, I'm overwhelmed at the minute. I'm in the middle of a book, and I just feel like I don't know, I'm struggling with it. I always struggle in the middle. I start off really well, I end well, and the middles are awful. I just don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if it's going right. And it just feels like I think it's just, it feels such a big task that's really hard to focus, whereas I just sort of get really distracted. And so I love finishing. I love editing because I feel like that's when I can really, that's often where I put the pizzazz into it as well, whereas I actually it often a little bit more, the sparks come when I'm editing. I'll go, oh no, but this would be even funnier if I did this. So I always find it really fun because it's like the finishing touches, which is what I'm all about. So yeah,
but that's what we always say, that editing is where like a lot of the magic happens. Like I bet some of the most memorable sentences, paragraphs, whatever in your book probably didn't come out in that first draft.
Exactly. Well, I suppose it depends what you're writing as well. Like perhaps if you're writing like a really complicated thriller, the editing is a nightmare because they're like picking holes in it and pulling all bits out that they're like say, oh, I don't like this, and you're like, oh, I don't know how to fix it now. It's all become much more complicated, or whereas mine doesn't.
Everything is strung together.
Plots. It's more just finessing and stuff. So it feels much more fun than perhaps other books might be to edit.
Oh, that's interesting. So when somebody's asking, when you were writing the blog, how often did you post? Did you do it like on a regular schedule? Every Tuesday I have to do a post, or did you just post when you felt like you had something to say?
Yeah, I've never done it on a schedule actually. I think because I feel like I only wanted to do it when I had something to say, and if I didn't have anything to say, I can't just write a post or draw something about nothing. Like I felt like it had to come from usually it was something that was actually happening in my life, like I was when I wrote about sleep deprivation, or
you were sleep deprived,
literally in that moment. So because how can you pull out those observations? How can you write something funny about something that you're not in the middle of? And that's where it all comes from, being like stuck in the middle, and that's how you resonate with people. So I've never been able to do it on a schedule, no, but I suppose the pressure, there does feel pressure to keep it going and to have content, otherwise people will just go off and get bored or whatever. And I think as well, when the books kind of come out and stuff, there was pressure for me to write blogs and to be present and there, because that helps sell them. And I always did something that worked really well for me back in the days when I used to blog, and then at the bottom I'd say if you enjoyed reading this, I've got a new book that's come out. And I used to get, when I had a lot of followers and a lot of people reading my blog, I used to sell a lot of copies or get a lot of pre-orders just from having those links at the bottom. So people or people had, or new people would read it and they'd enjoy it, and then they'd say, oh well, and I could buy a whole book of this.
Yeah, well, then that probably made you a lot more appealing to the publisher, knowing that you have these direct lines to your potential buyers, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think that's the thing. And I also get quite a few people who would message me and saying, oh, I've written a book, or I'd really like to write a book, and this is what I've done. And I say, well, it's really difficult to write something like a non-fiction book if you don't have a social media presence, because then they want to know that it's going to sell, and the only way they're going to know it sells by seeing that you've already got an audience that are enjoying what you're doing. So it would be very difficult to get a book deal doing something like I did without having that social media presence. Unfortunately, it's not what people want to hear often. So like, to spend years building up a profile.
No, but I think it's really important, and I think it's worth, if you are hoping to publish a book, it's worth cultivating that online presence so that when you're trying to sell the book, you can prove that you have people that are interested in what you have to say, right?
Yeah. And even if you're doing you don't need it for doing fiction, but I think you don't need it, but you're expected to start it up and start engaging and start, you know, building your audience and stuff like that, because that's how people, you know, people want to follow, and that's how they learn about your new books or what you're doing. And so it is, unfortunately, it's something that you kind of have to do. And as I've become less keen on doing the social media and become a lot more fatigued, and I don't really do very much of it anymore. I mean, I'd knock it all on the head if I could, but I can't, because I know that if I don't have the, you know, if I don't have my followers to sell to, then I'm not gonna, you know, my publishers are gonna be a bit annoyed with me. So I can't really, you know, stop doing it. So, but it's I think it's a lot of pressure. I mean, that's the downside, like having to market your own books. You know, there's a lot of pressure on me to actually sell them, and it's not fun to have.
It's not your favorite bit, yeah.
No, is that, yeah, you're worrying about book sales, you're worrying what people will say, you know, people are going to hate it, and then people, it's not just the sales, but people leaving reviews for you. So it's like you know, your job appraisal is happening online
on your Amazon page, yeah.
Appraisals are horrible anyway, right? But now, you know, you're in the public eye, people are also just, you know, just saying, oh, I thought that was absolute rubbish, I hated it, and so it's not the funnest time. Fun to my favorite bit is always not the writing, or not when it actually comes out, it's when you actually get the book in the post, the finished copies, usually a month or so before they actually hit the shelves, and you open it and you go, oh my god, I've done it, I've written a book. And the best bit is just having done it before the pressure of the selling or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So recently you have changed tax, and you've done the thing that everyone says is really tricky to do, and you've moved into a different genre. This is the extremely embarrassing life of Lottie Brooks, which is children, what do they call it, middle grade?
It's middle grade, so it's like 9 to 12-year-olds is the kind of suggested age range for that.
Yeah, my 9-year-old daughter is Katie's biggest fan, and is every time we see her on the school run, she's like, when's the book coming out? She wants insider information.
Oh,
but so what did your publisher say when you said that this was the direction you wanted to go now?
Well, so it wasn't the same publisher. So this is I've moved publishers for this. So it was actually, I've always wanted to write for children, and that's always been a dream of mine. So but weirdly, I didn't pitch this. Well, I kind of did, but what happened was that Penguin, or Puffin, the children's arm of Penguin, emailed me quite a while back saying, we really like your writing, we thought it would lend itself really well to children, probably because I'm quite silly and immature, and you know, they're sweary, but the books are very much, like you say, you know, the kids like it because it is quite silly humor, and so they suggested that it would work, it could translate into a children's book, and what they asked me to do was write a teenage kind of, perhaps a diary kind of format, and I felt a bit like, having looked through all my teenage diaries, that they were a little bit one-dimensional, and that by the time I was a teenager it was all about boys and drinking, and that was it, and I didn't really want to write something like that. I felt like I had more to say, especially to, you know, girls, and it's about a girl, and it's kind of a little bit obviously based, which most things are, based on myself and my own anxieties and worries when I was that age. And I felt like that was such a key moment in life where it's all awkward, you're kind of going through puberty, you know, your friendship groups are changing, you're really kind of expected to grow up quite quickly. And I just remember it really well, and I just remember it being really awkward, and absolutely loving Judy Blume books that really at the time, and just reading, you know, especially, which this one's kind of, it's not based on, but I wanted to write about the same age as Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, which is about a girl who's starting new school and getting her period, and you know, these sort of weird, getting interested in boys, and like friendship dramas and all this kind of stuff, and getting your first bra. And I just remember that just being so cringeworthy, but kind of funny, but also not funny. And then like just like such the natural thing that I wanted to write about. So I did that. I aged it down to what they asked and said, this is what I want to do. And I wrote a sample. I think I wrote about 5,000 words and illustrated it and sent it over, and they were just like, yeah, we love it, we want more. So then they said, if to get a deal, to get us to, to take it to like pitch it to our, I can't remember what they call them, acquisition meetings, to actually give you a contract, we need you to write at least half the book. I think in fiction generally you'd write all of it, but obviously it's slightly different, as in they approached me to do it. So I wrote about half the book, and yeah, then luckily they still liked it, and then I got a 2-book deal off the back of that, and yeah, and then I've just finished doing the second one. And I finished in the second one, which it's almost going to print now, and then I'm halfway through writing the third one of the same series. So,
yeah, oh, cool. But it's interesting when it came out, because it suddenly made me realize how few like comedy books there are that have a female protagonist, that are written. I don't feel like both my kids read it, both my son and my daughter, and they both really enjoyed it. But there's a lot of, Diary of a Wimpy Kid and all, like, lots of male funny books. But I don't feel like there are a lot of like current funny books for kids, for girls in particular. That's why I wrote it. I really couldn't find anything on the market at all that was right at that age. It was all a lot younger. And my kids love Wimpy Kid. It's a little bit sillier, as in it's kind of more, this is silly and it's got a lot of humor in, but it's also kind of dealing with a lot of those, like, more serious issues about your body changing and friendships and stuff. And then there was a lot of older, like, teenage funny, and like all the kind of snogging and boys and stuff like that. So I felt like there really wasn't much for that awkward phase girl. And so that was also kind of my thinking behind it, really. I love this awkward phase. I was a summer camp counselor for years, and my favorite group of girls to work with was always the like 9 to 11-year-old, because they're so interesting and they're funny, but they literally know nothing about the world. But they're so open to the fact that they know nothing, and I just find it really fascinating.
That you've probably got some good book material. I have to have a chat with you about your memories.
Yeah, I could dig out a few of the dramas from back then. Yeah, no, it's just fascinating. And Katie and I have, our kids are about the same age, and they're sort of in that process as well, of halfway to grown up and halfway to kid, and sometimes they seem so grown up, and then they'll cry over, fighting over a grape or something, and you're like, what? How can? It's such an interesting phase. Yeah. So was your writing experience different, trying to map out a fictional narrative?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if it's easier or more complicated. I mean, there's less pressure with the other books. I worried a bit more about what people thought about me and what I'm saying. Am I being offensive? Like, you worry, am I getting it wrong? Like, I need to get my tone right. Am I, I don't want people to get cross or dislike me. I'm saying, because it was all my kind of thoughts and feelings. So you get rid of that pressure, but it's and there's a lot of fun, because you can be as creative and come up with as many bonkers silly ideas as you like. But I find it complicated trying to weave the story, the story arc and stuff into it. And I'm not the most ordered with my writing, so I just sort of write the bits that I think are funny, and then I often end up with a big mess of different parts that I'm trying to jigsaw piece together, which is why I probably hate the middle bit, where I'm like, it's just a big mess. I don't know how it's all gonna, fit. That's where I am at the minute, my third one. So I'm kind of hating it at the minute, but it always gets done. It will get done. So
at least now you've like gotten through the messy middle of your first 2 fiction, and you'll get there eventually.
Exactly.
Does it all come down to you, or do you bring in help of an editor or beta readers? Do you have like trusted sources that you go to?
I've never shown anybody anything I've written ever until it's I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I think it's often because I'm so late as well doing it, so I don't have time to get someone to read it and give me their opinion, because by the time I've finished it, if they give it, if I start giving it to kids or other adults to read and they're going to hate it, I'm like, well, it's getting published anyways.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't like it, it's too late. So I don't have time, but obviously, like my editors will, their job is to put it together and try and make it better. But I do tend to write a relatively polished book, so there isn't usually a huge amount of changes. They don't ask for anything to be changed. It might be a bit more like, oh, we think that dad's, or this friend isn't involved enough, or let's add in a few more comedy moments with dad, or let's put a few, that kind of thing, rather than anything major. It'll just be like tweaking or picking, finding little holes, like, or better suggestions, like this character wouldn't have done that kind of thing. So,
but that's because you love the edit and you love going back and fixing it and playing with it and finding that magic, right?
Yes, exactly.
I think for lots of people that
they always have to, they can see things that you can't see, and there's,
of course,
you read things. Like, as you say, it's always better going back to having a break, but often I don't have a big time to have a break, because once you've read something through 3 times, it's not funny anymore to me. I'm reading it going, I have no idea if this is good. You can't critique your own work at all, so you need somebody else to read it and tell you which bits which bits need a bit more pizzazz and which bits are good and stuff. So
yeah, sure. Tell me about the fan mail that you've been getting. I've seen some of the pictures on Twitter for these books compared to, because I know when you were writing about parenting and things like that, you got a lot of feedback that wasn't always positive from people that didn't understand your humor or didn't understand that you were writing from a place of joy, using lots of swear words or whatever. But with writing this kids fiction, is it very different?
I mean, it's an absolute joy. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think part of the reason why I wrote and why I wrote in diary format and why it's illustrated and stuff is to appeal to the reluctant readers out there, and my kids are very much in that group. And so it's amazing to, I mean, I've just had so many lovely, some proper old school fan mail, but also just lots of, comments, and just parents as well, particularly just saying, I can't get my daughter, I mean, and sometimes son to read at all, and it's the first book that they've actually picked up for fun, or they've read it like 5 times, and they're just so excited to get the next one. So it's great. It's absolutely amazing to be able to communicate with kids like that, and for them to enjoy it. That's by far the best thing about it. So if I can keep writing things that they enjoy, then that's the absolute dream, I think.
What do you think it is? So what do you think it is about your writing that really connects with kids? Because I know lots of people want to write a book, and not everyone can write in that way that connects with kids. What tips do you have for people that are trying to write in a way that connects with kids?
I don't know. I mean, I think it has just been quite, I mean, I just love being coming up with the most silly scenarios and bonkers things that can happen. And I think that, and I think, just being able to draw the scenarios and pictures as well. Like, I mean, I try and write my book without illustration. It's easy in some ways. A lot of people write and then illustrate, but my illustrations always feel like they're punchline in a way. So after I try writing, but it's always when I start drawing, putting the pictures in, that's when it really sort of comes to life. And then
so you write first and then you add the illustrations after?
I mean, I think that would be the better way to do it, but I try to do it like that, but it always ends up being a bit of a mishmash, because as soon as I start putting them in, I start enjoying what I've done more. And so I couldn't write the whole thing with no illustrations because it just feels very flat. As soon as I start filling it in, then I start going, oh no, this has got, and I think it's often when I start drawing as well, I realise that how to add the humor, so it improves the whole thing. Like I start drawing something else and I'm like, oh no, that's even funnier. So it really does bring it to life. But yeah, I think the key has just been, it's just been silly, isn't it? Just having a silly imagination.
Yeah, well, and I think you're really good at kid language as well. Like the way it's very believable, the way they write these diary entries in kid language.
Yeah,
and they understand and see the world in like that way, like we were talking about, that limited way where they don't really understand what's happening and they're just making their best guess to make sense of the world.
Yep. Yeah,
which may or may not be right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we're nearly out of time here. What do you wish you had known back in the beginning when you started noodling away at Hurrah for Gin?
Oh, what do I wish I'd have known? I don't know really what I wish I'd have known. Nothing. I'm just really glad that I did it, because it was just such a whim. So I suppose I wish I'd have known that it would have led to where it led to. It was just such a, I'm just sitting on the sofa and I think I'll just start a blog. There was no real,
didn't write a business plan for it.
I thought of the name on the sofa just that night when I thought I'll start a bit, because I wanted to, I thought, oh, my mother's ruin, it's sort of a play on that, like hurrah, and I knew what to go hurrah for something. I quite like that. So yeah, I just thought hurrah for gin, because gin's mother's ruin, and then I just started writing it. It was literally as simple as that. So but yeah, I'm so pleased I did, because it's so strange sometimes the way those little decisions can like change your whole life, and the trajectory from like my whole career just doesn't mean anything anymore. I don't do it.
It's all just like change.
Yes, I spent 10 years working in digital media and stuff, and now it's just, I don't know anything about it anymore. It's all a big waste of time. Really.
No, it was paying the bills while you were sharpening up your
it was all good at the
blogging
time,
skills.
but it's just strange the way life works.
No, but I like the idea that if you do something and you really feel, if something that you feel really passionate about and you put it out there will be people who feel that same sort of passion. And some people will be more and some people will be fewer, but I don't know. I think
that's the key thing. It's being passionate, isn't it? About anything that you want to do in life. If you've got the passion and drive to do it, and if you really enjoy it, it will, lead to.
And maybe if you would still do it without ever getting paid, then maybe it's worth doing, and then the getting paid can just be.
Yeah, I never expected to get paid at all, so I really did it for the love of doing it. And then I think I just got a really kick out of people following and enjoying what I did, and that's satisfaction enough, isn't it? And obviously it gets to a point where if you're spending so much time doing it, it needs to start paying, because you can't keep spending all your spare time or alongside working full time, which is why people often end up monetizing what they do in terms of like ads or sponsored stuff, because it's got to you can't work for free. Just mine turned out to be
you've never bought into the whole influencer sponsored post, I really love this kind of peanut butter.
I think it's exactly, but I think the thing is I think it's difficult to do everything, and if I started doing ads and sponsor stuff and saying, hey, can you buy my books and my cards, it's too much, isn't it? People don't want to be sold to online. That starts to chip away at your your authenticity, really. So you can't do everything.
There are a lot of Instagram influencers. Ooh, sorry, strange sound. There's a lot of Instagram influencers out there that may disagree with you. I think you should just sell as much as you possibly can.
Well, I might sell out one day.
Yeah, Good. Well, thank you very much. That's it. That was a fast hour. Thank you for letting us pick your brain and try and learn as much as we can. But I feel like there's so many people in the ProWritingAid community that like the idea of starting blogs and like the idea of social media. And the dream really is to have that morph into a publishing deal. And there's not very many people that can make that happen. So you did.
You did. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It's great.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks everybody for coming along. Don't forget, it's our Black Friday sale over on the ProWritingAid website. So if you're thinking about upgrading, today is a good time to do it. And we will see you next time. Bye. Thanks again, Katie. Bye.